who are with us right now. The big story today, as I intimated earlier, the latest nationwide Bluedot poll, which we have in our possession, at least a portion of it, reveals crime, corruption, and cost of living as Jamaica's top concerns. So crime tops the list with a 10% increase since February, while corruption jumps up to second, indicating growing distrust in leadership. Cost of living remains a pressing issue, with 80% of Jamaicans concerned. This morning, we're joined in this segment by my first time as a guest on this program, Mr. Deacon Peter Espeut, who is in fact a public commentator. Good morning, Deacon Espeut. How are you today?
Morning, Richard B. Morning to your listeners.
Thank you so much,
everybody.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Deacon. Great having you, and regular repeat guest who never says no when we call upon him, Kevin O'Brien Chang, a political commentator. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, Richard. How can I say no to my good friend?
Peter.
Morning, Richie again. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, Peter.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, once again. Now, let me start with you, Peter. You would have heard maybe portions of the results of that Bluedot poll that was recently conducted. Let me start by asking you, how might the government of Jamaica address these rising concerns, especially as it relates to crime, which tops the list?
The crime problem has been with Jamaica for some decades. I have my own views on it, which you are asking me to share, and I'm happy to do so. We are aware that gangs are a major source of violence and crime, extortion and that sort of thing.
Yes.
The gangs that we have in Jamaica tend to be aligned with political parties. Political parties have not sought to distance themselves from their gangs. We recall recently when the Prime Minister, a particular Prime Minister, sought to get an extradition order lifted from one of the gang leaders. The link between politics and crime in Jamaica is strong. And it's a contradictory thing. The politicians say they want to stop crime, but they don't seem to want to disassociate themselves from their gangs. They created these garrison areas, and we say we have garrison constituencies. Interestingly, within a particular constituency, you may have garrisons that support different sides. But nevertheless, they've gone and created these, I call them monochrome residential areas that are defended by these political gangs. And that's really, in my view, the source of a lot of the crime that we have in the country. Not all, of course. I don't believe that there's the political will to put aside their affiliation with gangs and with garrisons. And so the crime will be with us until the political system adjusts.
Kevin, do you see it like that? And I mean, crime, you've always spoken about that as being a problem that the government needs to fix, but there's also corruption. How can we restore public trust in our institutions? Let me hear your views on those two.
Richie, it is very important when issues are discussed for people to look at the latest data. Sometimes people have narratives which are based on old data, not new data. If you look on the statistics, which the JCF puts out every week, murders are down 17% this year. Rapes are down 31%. Major crimes are down 14%. If you continue the current, and murders were down 8% last year too. The current trends continue, and there's no reason they should not. We will have about 1,160 murders this year. That will be the lowest murder count since 2014, a 10-year low. So when I see the public saying 29% were concerned about crime in February, I know 39%, it tells me that the media is not telling the facts. Because the public perception is based on what they read in the media. The public, most people, that's where they get their news from. Yes, there's social media and all that, for gossip and all that, but for the hard facts, comes from the media. and the media is not telling the story. When murders were going up, front page every day, murders count going up. Now it's dropping, not a word in the media. And just the other day, I had a talk with the Commissioner Blake, a very brilliant man. I was very impressed. And he says the gangs and the politicians thing is really an old narrative. He said you hardly get that happening anymore. He doesn't get any calls from politicians. It was once clearly the reality. But Dudus and Bruce Golding were 15 years ago, 2009, 2010. Times have changed. People need to look at the current data and use that for the judgment, not use old data. And as I said, we're headed for a 10-year murder rate low. Yes, the murder rate in Jamaica is still too high, but you have to start somewhere. And the commissioner said, look, when you get the gang numbers of murders down this year, next year will fall also because you have less reprisals, you know? Mm-hmm. And he's very confident that the trend will continue and get lower. We're on the right track of controlling crime in Jamaica, and we have to let the public know. The commissioner also said when the public sees crime going down, there's less domestic violence because it's become denormalized. Mm-hmm. The problem in Jamaica is violence has become normalized. Every little quarrel ends in death. Mm-hmm. We need to stop that mentality where people die so easily. And it can be done, and it is being done.
Let's look at corruption.
We need to look at the fact, and I blame the media for not putting this out, that murders are down 17%. We're heading for a 10-year low, and the public still believes crime is out of control.
We who deal with data.
I believe Peter wants to come in there. Yes, Peter?
We who deal with data know the difference between relative data and absolute data. Absolute data is it high or is it low? Relative data is it going up or is it going down? Kevin has focused his response on relative data. He says it's going down, therefore we should applaud. And we should take confidence in that, and we should not be concerned about crime because it's going down. It is going down, but it's still too high. We are second in the world for murder. So we come down from 1 to 2, and that doesn't encourage me at all. The fact is murder and shooting is too high. And yes, it's going down, but not by a long shot, not far enough. And I think Kevin is overblowing his hand, overplaying his hand. It is going down, no doubt about that. But it's still too high, as he himself just said. And therefore, the people's perception of crime as a national problem remains that it is a serious issue. People don't feel safe. And therefore, even though it is going down, people are not taking that as comfort.
Mm-hmm. What is going up based on what this nationwide Bluedot poll is telling us is the view on corruption, and that has made a big jump.
That's a big change.
Yes.
Because the politicians have made it clear that since the people don't consider corruption to be a major issue, they're not going to address it. And although we have an integrity commission, it is under tremendous constraints. It has a gag order on it that it's not allowed to call names, it's not allowed to say anything until an investigation is complete. And also, all these declarations that politicians have to make of their assets and income are done in secret. And, for example, if a politician says, I own 3 homes, he doesn't, this report is done in secret. So the public doesn't know what the politician says his assets are. He tells the Integrity Commission, I own a house in Kingston, 1 in St. Andrew, and 1 in St. Catherine. But were it made public, somebody like Kevin might say, but I know that man owns 1 in Portland and 1 in St. Thomas as well, and he didn't declare that. So the way the system is set up, because it's done in secret, this protects people who make false declarations. It's my view that the way to deal with corruption is to let the fresh air in and the sunlight in. All declarations must be done in public so that people can see. So if we know of some asset also that the politician has not declared, that we can expose it. But right now, with everything being done in secret, and anybody who speaks is guilty of a crime who can be locked up, this only favors corruption. And I think and both the PNP and the JLP are in favor of this secrecy. And therefore, both sides will always be suspect of corruption. What is good is that for the first time, corruption has risen to number 2 in the concerns of the people.
Yes.
And maybe this will encourage one party or the other to take a different stance on corruption.
Any other view in terms of reforms to tackle corruption that you wish to share, Kevin?
Well, Ricky, perceptions and data are different things. And we have a lot of talk about corruption in Jamaica. But if you look at the data, the only real data we have is Transparency International has a corruption index, right? And Jamaica's index is at 44, the highest it has ever been. The higher it is, the better, to 100. Used to be in the 30s, it's been 44 the last 2 or 3 years. So is corruption getting worse in Jamaica? The evidence says no. There's no doubt we can improve. And there's no doubt the politician has set up a beautiful system in Jamaica. The last elected politician that went to jail in Jamaica is 1990, Jackson, 34 years ago. But is Jamaica a highly corrupt country? Not by Transparency International data. And recently we saw Nigel Clark, the IMF, called for him to become Deputy Managing Director. Do you think if the IMF thought Jamaica was a highly corrupt country, they would want a Nigel Clark there? So while we have corruption problems, the narrative that is getting worse is not supported by the data. And the international Claudius Jamaica has gotten suggests that Jamaica is not seen as highly corrupt. So as I said, talk is talking about it. Sometimes you got to look at the reality of the data and the reality of what the international financial institutions, that the World Bank and IMF, how they are treating Jamaica.
Again, I want to point out.
And as I said, I'm just putting facts on the table for people. For one thing, we can be sure that the Transparency International Index data is very clear. Jamaica is maybe corrupt still, but it's the least corrupt it has been based on that. And that's the only real data we have to judge our corruption in our world.
Again, I must point out, Kevin, that the Transparency International data is relative data. If other countries are more corrupt, all of a sudden Jamaica will raise in the corruption index to be wonderful.
They have
because others are worse than us. It's not an absolute measure of corruption.
They have
a relative measure of corruption.
They have relative and absolute. Relative
but once you tell me it is 44, that is relative.
Sir,
that is relative, sir.
They have a score where they score each country out of 100, sir. And Jamaica's 44 is the highest it has ever been. They have a
44 is not the score, sir. 44 is the relative ranking.
You have to bet me, sir?
Compared to other countries.
We rank about number 70.
What is the absolute score?
Go look it up. The absolute score is 44, and the ranking is about 70. Go look it up.
All right. Well, yes, go ahead, Peter.
I have to look it up.
All right.
It's
no
my
worries.
impression that other countries are being judged as more corrupt than us, and therefore we are looking
at two scores.
Compared to others.
Score out of 100, that is your absolute score, and your relative ranking compared to other countries. Whereas 70 out of 190 countries, meaning we're the 70th most considered 70th most corrupt out of 190 countries. Our score is 44 out of 100. You used to be back in the 30s, maybe 10 years ago. It's not as good as it could be. We should be at least over 50 or more. I agree. But I'm saying is it getting worse, and not by Transparency International data. It's been about 44 for about 3 years straight. That's the highest score Jamaica's ever gotten.
Still want to stay with
it. Better, But I'm just saying the narrative that it's getting worse and out of control is not borne out by the data.
Okay.
And I agree the politicians have set up a great system that nobody goes to jail, but the public is not exactly banging down the doors to lock up politicians.
I want to stick with corruption and ask the question, starting with you, Peter. We see where the opposition is obviously leveraging corruption concerns to gain support. What impact will these concerns have, you feel, on the upcoming elections?
look, both sides are corrupt. In its day, the PNP has been associated with huge scandals. One can only think of the traffic bureau scandal as being one of the most notorious. But there are other scandals to do with the allocation of contracts, scandals to do with friends in high places and that sort of thing. So, I mean, the pot calling the kettle black is both sides accusing each other of high corruption. I believe both of them. Both of them accuse the other, and they're right. So, but what is interesting is if corruption is beginning to play a part in people's decision to vote, that may drive, this is what I said earlier, that may drive one party or the other. One will break ranks and say, we are going to bring an end to corruption, and may in fact introduce legislation that will reduce corruption, and then maybe we will see a change. But right now, both parties are in lockstep agreement that things are going to remain secret, that friends will be allowed, the possibility of detecting bribery is very small. The possibility of directing, the whole question of campaign contributions, people giving money and then getting contracts or getting benefits or something, the whole business of campaign contribution, political donation, remains secret. And it used to be that anybody who got a contract to the government, the Contracts Commission published that data annually. So we could know who got contracts. But now that data is secret. We don't know who is getting government contracts. So therefore, it's no wonder Transparency International can't find anything. Because who gets a government contract is secret. Who gives money to a political party is secret. So how do we know what bribery and graft is going on? Because both parties have colluded to make corruption difficult to detect, to perceive.
All right.
Current supply within. When I run out, then you run in.
Well, there you go.
But the reality of Jamaica, is that, look, Jamaican politicians, they may look up to the degree, but we don't see them living in palaces. We don't see flashy Lamborghinis driving around. We don't see multi-million-dollar U.S. bank accounts. I mean, look at the Andrew Holness, the thing and the controversy the other day. Whatever the controversy, you look at the numbers. He's like $5,000. His assets went up over the period. 5,000 U.S. There's no gigantic movement. They're talking about $30,000 bond U.S., about illegal 1.9 Jamaican enrichment, which is 10,000 U.S. The numbers are small being talked about. When you look at the world, you see multi-millions, billions stolen and all that. I think in Jamaica, the people expect a certain degree of corruption in the politicians because then they do something. But when it gets excessive, then they get angry. And while I don't think our guys are the most honest, they're not the most corrupt either.
All right.
I don't have much confidence in the data, I must tell you. I don't have much confidence in it. Because it's collected.
We can look
and we have no way of verifying it. I have no reason to have confidence in it.
Well, we can look and see our politicians. Are they really driving on a Lamborghini?
But
Lamborghinis are too low to drive on Jamaican roads. You can't drive a Lamborghini on Jamaican roads.
There are a few here. There are a few here, Peter.
It's not big money. Whatever
because the accounts you know about.
It's not big money. Yes, and all of them
we don't have access to the accounts in Switzerland, so we don't know what the accounts are, Kevin.
Gentlemen, I want to go back to the nationwide Bluedot poll though, because this is very important. There are 4 areas that fall under party and leadership standing that I really want us to get in before time is totally gone. We only have 3 minutes left. 1, more Jamaicans, according to this poll, are in favor of government continuity. 2, female voters continue to be slightly more in favor of a 3rd term for the JLP government. 3, senior voters are notably supportive of the JLP being elected for a 3rd consecutive term, with 56% in favor, while the youngest voters also show majority support with 54% in favor. And finally, political affiliation strongly influences views on the JLP's 3rd term. Unaffiliated voters remain divided. Peter, What are your comments on those findings based on this poll?
All right. I have been studying the few items of the data that have been released.
Yes.
And first of all, the business about the third term. I looked at the data, and it's 52% say yes and 48% say no. Now, the margin of error is 3%, is plus or minus. That data does not indicate statistically that a majority wants a third term. It is statistically a dead heat. Plus 3%, minus 3%, the data overlaps. A statistician would not say that a majority wants a third term. That's not what the data says. Now, I quite agree. The youngest voters seem to support a third term, and the oldest voters seem to support a third term, because you see, within the age bands, that data may be statistically significant if you get more, if the spread is in fact quite apart. But where it is that close, the data that interested me was the one that they released yesterday morning that spoke about whether people thought that the country was going in the right direction. And it was, that data is very statistically significant. It's not close to the 3% plus or minus at all. And it's a little incongruous. Quite a large number of people, a sizable majority, said that they thought that the country was going in the wrong direction. And yet the same people apparently turned around and said that they would give the government a third term. Why would they do that? Why would the same people say the country is going in the wrong direction, but we want to give them a third term? There are a couple of reasons that you might want to think of. One is that you don't think that the PNP would be any better. That's one option. Another option is, well, we think the country is going in the wrong direction, but the women will say, well, I think Andrew Holness is good looking, so I'll vote for him anyway, even though the country is going in the wrong direction. I mean, you can't just interrogate the data just like that. I wish, as I said on Nationwide last night, I wish I had the data on my laptop with Espeut to be able to adjust it and do cross tabulations. Who are the people who are saying the country is going in the wrong direction? And who are the people who are saying that we should give them a third term? It's they have only broken the data down according to PNP and JLP and uncommitted, which is useful. But I would
doesn't go far enough.
Do more analysis if I had the data in my possession. I am not satisfied that if one set of people say the country is going in the wrong direction, the same set of people are saying, but we'll give them a third term. I think Bluedot is a relatively new polling organization. Mm-hmm. I have not heard a satisfactory explanation from them as to that incongruity.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Kevin, I have a minute. What are your thoughts?
But the reality is every country in the world is going in the wrong direction if you see the polls. In America, it's about 62% now. And yet still Kamala Harris is favored to win. Second of all, the interesting part about the 52% is that it's gone up 5% from February. Whether it's statistically significant or not, it has gone up. So it tends to suggest that JLP has gained a bit in favorability. And older folks, being JLP...
That is true.
That budget did a lot for old people. Nigel Clark and Andrew Holness. There's a lot in there for the pensioners. So it suggests it has worked. That, we're giving them the pensioners some goodies and they are saying, yeah, we'll support this party. And yes, the ladies have always been for Andrew Holness. It's not only good look. She's a certain, I've talked to women about it, she's a certain gentleness about him, like a teddy bear kind of stuff. He's a big, strong guy, but he's a gentle teddy bear thing, and the women tend to like that, his personality. That's what you find when you talk to them.
All right.
So they'll vote for him, even though they think the country is going in the wrong direction. They'll vote for him because he's a teddy bear.
Well, as I said, every country in the world, Peter, is in the wrong direction. There's not a country there is where the people forget in the right direction. So you can filter that one out.
Gentlemen.
44% in Jamaica is a lot less than the 62% in the U.S.
Gentlemen, we're totally out of time. I want to thank you both, and I look forward to talking to you both sometime again in the near future. Peter and Kevin, have a good day, and thank you.
Blessings.
Thanks much, Richie. Take care.
All right, all the best.
Hope things are going good, Richie.
Yeah, man.
Right.
So far, so good. Thanks, my brother. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you very much, Peter. And we looked at aspects of the nationwide Bluedot polls this morning. And we had on board with us in the big story, an extended version, mind you, we had Kevin O'Brien Chang, political commentator, and Deacon Peter Espeut, who is a public commentator. What are your thoughts on what you heard?